All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the fellow laborers out there, and as always, you believers. So yeah, I'm back once again through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And as we often, make mention of that spirit being the spirit of prophecy, which is an actual spirit. And that spirit is what's trending, if you will, right now on the planet Earth. Prophecy is the trending topic, rather unbeknownst, knowingly or overall unknowingly to you people. Case in point, when you consider the planetary aligning of the planets, the different constellations which taking place, that's not some random act. No, that basically serves as one of the many signs and overall wonders from the Most High, a token, if you will, which emanates from Bible prophecy. And this is what we have been allowed access to consider, from whatever respect. For an example, prophecy deals with numerology. And you have these planets, these 6 planets lined up. Well, from a numeric point of view, the number 6 represents cut off, basically. And we understand that symbolizes the so-called white man being moved out of power and overall cut off, which that's an act that no one can hinder. And that's pursuant to the book of, Job, the 11th chapter and the 10th verse. If he cut off, who can hinder him? But, we understand overall these different signs and wonders, different tokens from the heavens, for an example, pretty much symbolizes the coming of the King, Yahweh Shai, and his return. And that's pursuant to the book of Luke, the 21st chapter, where it outlines the fact that we will see signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars, and overall in heaven. Now, when you read down in that same passage, it concludes by saying, what? Then you shall see the Son of Man coming in his glory. Matter of fact, let me grab some real quick. In the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 43rd chapter. Let's see. Yep, let's start at the 6th verse. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 43 and beginning at the 6th verse. And it reads, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. So the moon was created as a declaration of the times and a sign of the world. So the moon wasn't just placed in the heavens, for nothing. No, it's a science behind the moon, in which the word moon actually goes back to month. That's where you get the word month. See, it says from the moon is the sign of feast, right? Which right now we in the Shabbat, the Sabbath, for an example, but you have different moon cycles which symbolize different feasts, right? Passover, Feast of Tabernacles. See? It says, from the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. It says the month is called after her name. See? The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. It says being an instrument of the armies above, and it's heavy. You have, I believe that these scientists and what was there? I did a lesson on it. Well, I actually did a live a few classes back where they perceived the moon to be a base for the so-called UFOs. See? But we know the moon ultimately is an indicator of the times and seasons that we're in, as well as all of the constellations, how they align, even the sun. Matter of fact, let's prove that real quick, and I'm going to go back here. What's that, the Book of Wisdom of Solomon? The 7th chapter. Let me see. All right, yeah, this is Wisdom of Solomon 7, and beginning at the 17th verse, it reads, "For he have given me certain knowledge of the things that are." And this is Solomon speaking. It says, namely, to know the world, Salakia, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements. So Solomon had limitless wisdom. He knew how the earth was made and created the elements. Because remember, that's Yahweh Shah, in whom the Heavenly Father used to create everything in existence. See? Verse 18, it says, the beginning, ending, and midst of the times, the alteration of the turning of the sun, and the change of seasons. See? And the change of seasons. So Solomon understood the alteration of the turning of the sun. And we've been going into that a lot lately. The sun is a mechanism, if you will, which contributes to time. So the so-called white man cannot alter time or pretty much add 1 cubit to his statue, because why? The alteration of the sun. He can't stop the days from coming and going. See? But Solomon had certain understanding concerning the alteration of the turning of the sun, and it says, and the change of seasons. And we know the change of seasons as it relates to, you know, the physical seasons, your summers and springs, winters, and fall. But understanding King's language, in which the Lord gave us access to, open our mind up to understand the lingo concerning the rise and fall of kingdoms and empires. The changing of seasons applies to just that, the removing and setting up of kings. And you can read about that in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter. See? So the alteration of the turning of the sun is in the same breath with what? The changing of seasons. And we're in the season of Esau, which is not a perpetual season. See? Verse 19, it says the circuits of years and the positions of stars. See? The circuits of years and the positions of stars. And again, you got these stars, these planets, which are stars, aligning in such a way to bring forth a token in the earth. See? And that token is what? The return of Yahweh Shah draw nigh, which will serve as the segue to the world of corn. See, so when you go back here again to Sirach, the 43rd chapter, and beginning at the 6th verse, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. See, it say, from the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. It says the moon, it says the month is called after her name, because again, the moon is the month, or vice versa. That's why we dictate the times we in, the days, based upon the moon, the new moon, or the what? The new month. See, it says, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. See? So the moon is an indicator of feasts and the changing of seasons, just as the sun, as well as all of the stars. And you're going to see that as we read on. It says the beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord, which is the heavens. It says, at the command of the Holy One, they will stand in their order. See, at the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order. So it's no coincidence. You got these different phases of the moon, blood moons, harvest moons. And right now you got this aligning of the planets. See? That's them standing in their order. It says they will stand in their order, see, and never faint in their watches. And that's what the so-called white man is banking on for the constellations to faint. Because when you read Jeremiah 31, the Most High pretty much sent out a challenge to Esau. If he can cause the moon and the sun to cease in their perfection, then he will cast off Israel. So that's why you got these devils trying to create certain technology to dim the sun. They actually shot rockets at the moon. Why? Because they serve as a token. Really, that's a promissory that the Lord is going to give us the kingdom when you really go into it. You see? But again, it says, at the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches. See that? So we're in a time where the Most High is sending forth signs and wonders to indicate the times and seasons that we're in. And we'll be in a time of what? A transfer of power, where rulership will be handed over to the poor and stripped from Esau, the so-called white man. And that's pretty much the storyline. For those of you out there who sincerely subscribe to these teachings, you know that's the overtone of the report. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. See? And what complements our belief system is the signs and wonders, the different events that's taking place in the earth, and which one of those events is a time of heavy judgment. And that's what I wanted to touch on in this lesson, in which the Lord actually set up the perfect setting to facilitate the evils, the judgments, the perils, the plagues, and the overall death. You people better get familiar with death, man, because this is what's about to be introduced at a very, very high level in the earth. In which I got a little information I want to bring forth to show you where the tone is set, in which this have been the case. I mean, this the momentum basically going back years now, right? We've been pulling articles and different information in the form of videos and like I mentioned, articles, etc., which lends credence to the fact that the Lord is making good on the death threats that we pretty much report, the evil titans. And again, America is the setting. Yahweh Shai designed and created America to serve as the front, if you will, for these judgments to go forth. Now, to get a better feel for this, let's go real quick right here to the book of Job. Job, the 10th chapter. And I start at the 20th verse, and it reads, "Are not my days few? Cease then, and let me alone, that I may take comfort a little." And this is pretty much Job crying out of the bitterness of his soul. Because we know the story of Job. He was catching hell. He was visited by the Most High. And basically, he was sending out a cry to the Lord to leave him alone. He said, look, are not my days few? Cease then and let me alone. You know, I could just get a little comfort, because when you examine Job's walk, he was bombarded with a whole lot of misfortunes. When you read Job, the first chapter, basically, he got a report, an evil report, that his family died. And I'm not saying it in what the order, right? It just isn't whatever order, but it was a series of misfortunes. He got a report that his family died, and while he was listening to that report, he got another report, another messenger, and came with more bad news. And when he was listening to that report, he got more bad news. Not to mention, he was visited with boils. He was plagued. See? So he was crying out for a little comfort. He wanted the Lord just to leave him alone just for a little bit. You see? But we understand that there's a prophetic overtone to this. Job is actually prophesying, and you're going to see that as we read on. It says, before I go whence, I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death. Now let's examine this. It reads, it says, before I go whence, I shall not return. Now with the naked eye, you will perceive that Job is talking about the grave. He said, look, leave me alone so I can go to the shadow of death, the place where I will not return. But he's actually, again, prophesying, which when you read the book of Job, this is a heavy book. What lies within the book of Job is a series of prophecies, and even prophecies concerning America. And this is what we read right here in the 21st verse. Again, it says, before I go whence, I shall not return. Now, why did Job make this statement? Because we're not going to return to America. America was set up to serve its purpose. And you're going to see that as we get into this precept. It was set up basically to house Israel as captives. See? And you know what? Let's prove that. Some come to mind real quick. Psalms. Yep, Psalms 137. Now you see the heading right here, right? An experience of the captivity. So America was set up to serve a purpose. And for one, to house the captives. The Lord drove us out of our land and sent us, he dispersed us to the far west. And he pretty much prepared America to be the place of our captivity. See? But it don't stop there. This place, America, is the shadow of death. And we're going to get into that. So again, it says, this is Psalms 137:1. It says, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. See that? So you see here where we went into captivity and you know, we wept. And we remember Zion, which in its perfection is now. See? It says, we hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. It says, for there they that carried us away captive, see, required of us a song. And that's what them devils, they wanted you to sing. And even to this very day, you niggas is nothing more than the jesters, court jesters, the entertainment for the Esau. It says, and they that wasted us require of us mirth, saying, sing of us the songs of Zion. So, matter of fact, let me continue. It says, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? See that? So America was designed, first and foremost, to house the captives. It's a prison. See? But after this captivity, we're not going to go back into captivity. So that's why Job made this statement. Before I go whence, I shall not return. See? even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death. And the shadow of death. So what should jump out here to prove that Joel wasn't talking about the grave or the afterlife? The word land. See? Now, when you click on this word land, and it's going to prove that America was set up to serve a purpose. You know, obviously, as we just read in Psalms 137, as a place of captivity, but it serves a purpose as it relates to death. This is the shadow of death. This is the place designed to bring forth death. See? Now, the Hebrew word here would be aratazah. Now, when you go into this definition, it takes you to the word district. District. Now, when you look into this word district, make sure I got that. Okay. All right, so it takes you to the word district. We're going to click on this word district. Give me a minute. It's loading up slow. Matter of fact, let's try this again. All right, it looks like I'm good now. Yeah, this computer been bugging. All right, so I'm back. So let me go back here again. Like I said, I got a few tabs, and it's like it's draining my memory or something. So hopefully we'll get through this. But I'm gonna go back to this word district. All right. So again, a district is a specific piece of land area that a government or group marks off for a special purpose. See that? In which that word district goes back to this word land. The Hebrew word here being aratazah, right here in Job 10 and 21. See, before I go whence I shall not return, meaning America, even the land or the district, and we looked up that word district, and it translates to what? A land designated for a specific purpose. So America was set up to house death. See? That's why it was such an act of mercy for the Most High to give us this truth. In this time destitute of life, in the land of darkness, the Lord gave us light. You see, to navigate through the pitfalls, which is America. See, it says even the land of darkness and the shadow of death, which we're going to get into that phrase as well, right? But before we do, as promised, let me go ahead and get some of these articles out the way so I can discard them. Because again, it's like it's using a lot of memory. But this is from Newsbreak, and it reads, deadly disease outbreak kills 2,000 as experts reveal what Americans should know. Now, this is concerning a facet of the Ebola outbreak, and it's taking place in the Congo. But why should Americans be briefed? Because it's coming here. Well, it's really already here in some capacity. See? And how do we know? How can we trust that the Ebola, not just this pestilence, but other various forms of diseases will come right here to America? Well, we just read it. But this is the land of darkness and the shadow of death, in which that word land, again, the Hebrew word that being aratazah, taking you back to one of the definitions being district, a specific a purpose, a land designed to serve a specific purpose. So America is the perfect setting for this disease to break out as well as other. You got the psycho, what is the cyclo, whatever that shit. It really rhymes with psycho. Right? You got all of these diseases that's controlled by Esau, the so-called white man. Hence, you're a center of disease control. Matter of fact, let me grab some real quick. That's all we're going to need with this. Let me get rid of this tab. Hopefully, it'll free up some. Let me get real quick right here. Give me a second. Man. This thing low and slow, man. All right, so this is Sirach the 9th chapter. Sirach 9 and 13. It says, keep thee far from the man that have power to kill. And this is overall dealing with Esau, because he was given the sword. See? And what you do with the sword, you kill. It's a killing instrument. So, obviously this applies to individuals as well, right? You come across some hothead. Well, it's not in your best interest to associate with them. But we understand from a big picture, this is dealing with Esau. So the scriptures encourage us to keep far from him. Now, does this mean you go to another country? You subscribe to that flea doctrine? Oh, because you had this guy, Rakah, or the GOCC, who we affectionately refer to as bubble-eyed blackfish. He had his congregation to go out there to, I think it was Egypt, and they pretty much got stranded out there. No, the scriptures tell you we're going to be delivered from Babylon. So when it says, keep thee far from the man that have power to kill, basically that translates to having no fellowship with this devil. You see? We're not linked to Esau as you other groups with these different binding contracts, such as the 501c3. See? Again, it says, keep thee far from the man that have power to kill, so shalt thou not doubt the fear of death. And if thou come near unto him, make no fault, lest he take away thy life presently. So you should not come near this devil, meaning associate, make an alliance with him, because the end is going to be what? Your life being taken away. For an example, those of you who receive the mark, is going to be a penalty for that. You're going to die for initiating that covenant. It says, remember that thou goest in the midst of snares, and that thou walkest upon the battlements of the city. Let's read this again. It says, remember that thou goest in the midst of snares. And what's the midst of snares? America, Babylon the Great. Here in America is filled with pitfalls and snares and traps. Hence the land of the shadow of death. See? It says, remember that thou goest in the midst of snares, and thou walkest upon the battlements of the city. And that city being what? America, Babylon the Great. See that? So this is, again, is the setting in which the judgments of the Lord is going to go forth in their perfection. So with that, let's move on. Like I said, I got a string of articles, due to the computer not officially moving. We might just hit a few of these. But this is from the Hill. The source is from this Hill. And it reads, Superbug confirmed in 23 states. Where is the deadly fungus spreading in 2026? So this is the report that comes with Babylon. Pestilences, evil, food shortages, right? As you see here, from Newsbreak, shoppers warn of supermarket price rises within months due to extreme heat. So everything here is, and that drama is going to manifest in the form of the evils. This is what you can look forward to over here in America, man. Nothing but mourning, lamentations, and woe. And if you truly claim to speak on behalf of the heavenly kingdom, then certainly this is going to be at the forefront of your report. We speak about the kingdom. We speak to the good news and glad tidings. But even in that, you have to expound on the evils. There's no way around it. Because how in the hell can you speak concerning anything to be optimistic about here in America? The only thing you can place your hope in is that you may be numbered amongst the Lord's elect. See? And even in that, which being numbered amongst the Lord's elect comes with salvation, but even in that, there is drama. As it is written, the elect shall scarcely be saved. So all the way down to the last moments in time, as it relates to America, Babylon the Great, and the destruction, which will bring about the deliverance of the elect, is going to be met with a heavy form of resistance. See? So America itself, this is indeed the shadow of death, which the climax, which proved that this place is the very hub for death, is this is going to be the main stage where World War III is going to play out. As you can see right here, and this is also from a news break, North Korea launches another ballistic missile as U.S., South Korea prepare for military drills. See? So that's the temperature on the earth. And these missiles, in which we have went into this a lot, especially of late, these missiles is designed and engineered to reach America. Why? Because this is the land of the valley of the shadow of death. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And how do we know this? Well, let's go there, because King David prophesied about this as well. When you go to the book of Psalms, the 23rd chapter, and I start at the top. It says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me besides the still waters. Now, this is a dark saying for this truth, because the Lord made us to lie down in these green pastures. The green pastures, again, represents the truth. And what does it mean to lie down? Well, this is our lodge. Lord willing, we're not going anywhere. We don't need no other form of information to be presented to us. No other philosophy or doctrine can suffice us. This is truly the bread of life. When you consider bread is fulfilling, bread fills you up. The scriptures say, he who thirsts, come to the waters and drink. So we're not thirsty for answers. We have been fulfilled. We understand all things that the Most High allowed us to, as it relates to his will. So these are those green pastures in which we lie down. We good right here. See, it said, he leadeth me besides the still waters. You see? So we was made to get this truth. See, he maketh me. We was led to this truth. When you woke up to this truth, however, and whomever it applies to in your particular walk, the first time you came across one of these videos, or you might have physically came across a camp and your interest was piqued, that was the Most High himself leading you. You see? You can call it an invitation, if you will. That was the Lord inviting you to the feast. It says, yeah. It's like it, verse 3. It says, he restoreth my soul. He restoreth my soul. And restore goes back to just that, rebuilding, refreshing. Because remember, we was broken as a people. So we began to undergo that construction. That's the Lord restoring our soul. See, he leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake, because it wasn't nothing we did. It was the Most High who saw fit to bring us into this gathering. See? Verse 4, and this is the point. It says, yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Now, this valley of the shadow of death is America. We're going to get into that. But what jumps out here is, yeah, though I walk through, meaning what? This is temporal. And we read that in Job, the 21st chapter, where Job said, what? Before I go to the place from whence I will not return. The land of darkness and the shadow of death. When we went into that word land, and one of the definitions there for that word is district, which is what? A land dedicated for a purpose, a specific purpose. And that's obviously to house the captives, but ultimately to serve as the hub for death. See? It says, yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Remember Matthew 28, where Yahushua said, lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. Now, we got to qualify that, because someone might say, well, how? How is the Lord with us? Well, he's with us through the word. As it is written, one of the many titles of our Lord, the word of God. And that's pursuing the Revelation, the 19th chapter. Also, Yahushua made the statement in spirit in Psalms, the 40th chapter, lo, I come in the volume of the book. So the scriptures, when handled through the Holy Spirit, it unlocks Yahushua. So that's why Yahushua is with us here, even to the end of the world. See, it says, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And that rod and that staff represents this truth. This is what comforts us. But let's examine here again where it says, yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Now, real quick, let's click on this word death, which this word valley is heavy too. One of the words it takes you to, gay. That's not a coincidence. But which gay, it goes into like folly as well. In which we know the Most High, he's not fond of that. What's that, Ecclesiastes, the 5th chapter? Scriptures tell you how the Lord take no pleasure in fools. So that's one of the reasons why America is going to be completely obliterated. So when you go to this word death, the Hebrew word here would be tazalah mawaf. Tazalah mawaf. It says death, shadow, deep darkness, shadow of death. It says death, shadow, deep shadow, darkness, death, of distress. And you can even look at the numbers. America, this place, you people are in distress, right? Suicide spikes here in America. Now, they might put on the front, when the camera on, they'll pose and take a picture. But that's just a snapshot in time, literally. And it's funny, they have to capture that moment, right? They throw a smile on their face. But really, depression comes with being here in America. And that's gonna spike as well. It's gonna intensify. You're gonna see why America is known as the shadow of death very soon. Because the food gonna drop, you're gonna have blackouts. These are the things we often go into. And those blackouts is going to bring out the creepy things, as it is written. Wild beasts going to change their place. It says extreme danger. Extreme danger. Now, when you go to the root word here for death, it says mawath. It says death, dying, death personified. Death personified. It says realm of the dead. See? Realm of the dead. So that proves America has a purpose. It's an actual realm set up to facilitate death. Realm. Let me see. An imaginary or unseen space where something exists, the realm of dreams, an area where someone or something has absolute control. Right? So this is the realm of the dead. It says death, death by violence, death by violence. And America is violent. See? Oh, they had an experiment where you had this robot. He traveled throughout the world, and all the countries he went to, they'll probably sign him, like you sign someone cast. Or when he made it to America the first day on the tour, he was destroyed. See? This place, gun violence, it's tops in America. See, death by violence as a penalty. Yeah, because the Most High used America. He sent you over here to America to be penalized. Right? For everyone you hear that get put to death, right? You see Jake get all stirred up because you have lynchings. Jake get lynched and hung. Yeah, how about Shema Shai? It's penalty. That's a penalty. That's judgment. See, and America is the place for that. Not to say judgment don't go forth all over the world, but America again is the realm for death. See, it's a state of death. State of death. The air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you consume, even the rhetoric that's on display, the schooling, the information, like I mentioned, doctrines, philosophies, ideologies, that's death. It's polluted, as it is written, arise and depart, because it will destroy you. Matter of fact, let's get that. I believe that's the book of Micah. What is that? Let me see. Give me a second. Oh, okay, Micah 2. Where am I? Okay. Right book, wrong chapter. All right, this is Micah 2 and 10. It says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest." This is dealing with America. So we're commanded to arise and depart. And again, that doesn't mean subscribe to a flea doctrine, move to another country. No, arise and depart. It starts mentality wise. When you come into this truth, you're built up. That's the temple being restored. So we arise and we have departed as it relates to our mindset. As it is written, he who departed from evil maketh himself a prey. It says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest." Yeah, America is temporal. You see? Now we do have to survive, but our mindset is on the kingdom of heaven. We know that this is a temporal state of being. This is not our rest. See? It says, because it is polluted, it should destroy you even with the sore destruction. So America will destroy you even with a sore destruction. See? And with that sore destruction and its beauty and its perfection, it's the destruction which will come in the form of World War III. So going back, let's go back to this definition here. We close out the shadow of death. And I'm going to go back to the root word, mawaf. It says state of death. See? So this place is polluted. You know, you hear someone say he's in a certain state, or you hear the phrase state of being. Well, this is the state of death, man. See? Place of death. Place of death. Let's go to some of these definitions here in the Strong's. The dead, their place or state. It says figuratively, pestilence, in which we went into the article where you got over in the Congo, 2,000 people died over the Ebola, but what? They warn in America. Why? Because America is the perfect catalyst for that pestilence. See? Be dead, death, die. That's an exclamation point right there. So yeah, the scriptures is basically a light, and it brings clarity as we often go into. It identifies and targets, different characters, and it don't stop there. It even spills over to from a geographical perspective. And America is very prominent. That word prominent, again, meaning famous. America is a very famous place in the scriptures. And with America comes death. So you people, you're going to see, again, as you can see the title of this lesson, you will soon see. I mean, when I say soon, I emphasize that you will soon see why America resembles the shadow of death. And we know why. Why? Because America is actually the shadow of death. The shadow of death is America and vice versa. So yeah, with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the fellow laborers out there. And as always, you believers, to the next time, shalom.